Carly. Welcome back to High Country Homesteading. It's the end of July, so I wanted to give an update on what's been happening in the July garden. We've had way more things happen in July, finally, than any other month so far. I honestly was pretty depressed in June because I feel like I was the only one not harvesting anything, not even a flower really. So July has definitely brought a lot more hope and joy to the garden, and I know that just has to do with patience and that beginner garden patience. So I'm feeling a lot better in the July garden. So I will show you around things that are blooming, things that we've been harvesting, and some things that still have some growing to do and will probably be picked in August. So I will show you around. So the first thing we come to in the garden is my strawberry fields dahlia patch. So in July, we finally started getting some dahlia blooms. We have these cool round ones that just kind of look like pom-poms. And then the other ones that are blooming are these. They're so beautiful. They've got like pinks and oranges. And look at all these buds on here. I'm so excited for these. But I've been able to cut a couple of these so far to make blooms out of. This dahlia plant did not get as big as the other two. I'm not sure why. And then I have this one as well. So I'm not sure why these two didn't grow, but I do have these, and I have that purple one over there. So that's been really nice. Still, where I planted that second planting of eggplant did not do anything. So this is basically an empty patch with nothing in it except weeds. And I have some little tiny, these are the dwarf purity white cosmos here that have been blooming. Here are my bigger white cosmos. They have been doing well. I've definitely been cutting a lot of these. And then back there, I don't have one blooming right now, but it's the Piketty Cosmo, which is white, but it has a really beautiful purple on its outside edge. These pink lemonade dahlias are still doing amazing. I haven't been cutting them much. I've just been kind of letting them have a lot of color and giving color to the garden. But these zinnias that I planted here are not doing great. This month in the garden have had a bad infestation of Japanese beetles. Here's one right there. I think you can see. I'm pretty sure this is called a Japanese beetle, and they've been doing that whole like a lace pattern on the leaves like that, and they've really been attacking my flowers. Thankfully they haven't been attacking the food too much, but they're really doing a number on my flowers, and it's making these. That's supposed to be a salmon zinnia, and that's the Isabellina zinnia. They've really been attacking the borage. I'm not sure why borage is their favorite, but that's fine because I'm not really using the borage for anything else. But here they are right here. And they're doing a lot of mating right now, which is not making me very happy because that means they're making more. So I'll leave them on my borage, but I've been spraying some neem oil to try to get them off of things. And that seems to be helping a little bit. Here we have this is called the National Pickling Cucumber. They are so spiky, like the cucumber itself. I don't know if you can see that. Super spiky, and I didn't know that about cucumbers. I feel like a lot of other people's are not as spiky, but these ones are super spiky. But here's some little baby ones here. Definitely once they get even bigger, the spikes come off a bit, but it still will poke you pretty good. That's a good sized cucumber. They're definitely quite chunky. They don't get as long as I thought cucumbers should get, but they are climbing up this trellis nicely. Although I do feel like my trellises aren't being used to their fullest potential. That's definitely something that I'm gonna change next year. I originally wanted to do small squashes and pumpkins on these trellises, but I ended up mostly planting beans, and that was a mistake. So the only thing slightly climbing are these cucumbers. Now these cucumbers over here are just very sad. This is called Ashley cucumber, and the plants themselves hardly grew at all. But somehow, even though we've got just this tiny plant, they've somehow managed to grow this like really squat ball, funny looking cucumber. So bless their little hearts, they're trying, but they're managing to just grow these really funky, weird looking cucumbers. I have not harvested one yet. I probably should and see if it tastes good, but they're trying. There's a little one over there. So I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing something. But yeah, so this trellis is going unused basically, and I kind of do wish I had kept the plan of using them for squashes, but maybe that'll be for next year. This was the eggplant patch. It's completely dead, not doing anything. My nasturtiums, some of them are going strong, but some of them are dying out pretty good. These were the Brussels sprouts, which I knew it was too hot for, but I just wanted to see what they would do anyway. And they definitely grew, but there's no Brussels sprouts happening. They've just all been attacked by bugs. Same over here. I'm actually surprised because this cabbage has been attacked by bugs. And I know it's too hot for cabbage, but I am starting to get little heads on a couple. So I'm just gonna let it grow. I did just start new cabbage and Brussels sprouts inside, as well as broccoli. So I am gonna let these grow, but I do have a second planting come. So see, here's a little head coming here. There's a little something coming here. So I'm gonna see how it goes. Here's a flower coming on here, but I'm just gonna leave those there. This is the shadiest corner of the garden. That's why I put the cabbage there. So I'm wondering if that's why they were able to grow a little bit of something. If I turn around behind me, this is where we have the artichoke plants. I haven't even looked it up. I have no idea what my artichoke plants are supposed to look like at this point. I'm sure they're supposed to be a lot bigger. This is probably my biggest one. I don't see anything happening with them, honestly. I know they like a lot of water and they're turning a little bit yellow. So they probably could use some fertilizer, which I haven't done in a while. But I don't know. I'm just letting them go. I need to look up, honestly, what I should be doing with artichokes because I have no idea at this stage what they should even be looking like. But I know they're supposed to get pretty big. Here's our patch of borage. Doing pretty well, but it's also getting eaten up by those Japanese beetles. But that's okay because they've been staying off the zucchini plants. This is the zucchini patch, and I've already gotten a couple of zucchinis. I've got a nice one growing here, and let's see, I have a couple more going. I've got one there, one back here, and like 2 babies starting in there. So zucchini's doing okay. It's definitely going better than what I tried last year. I think I got 2 zucchinis out of like 8 plants. But this year's going a little bit better. These are the jade beans. I've already harvested a ton off of these plants. I'm definitely glad. I didn't even have green beans in my original plan, but I'm definitely glad I did because it's literally the only thing besides a couple cucumbers that we've been harvesting. So I have lots of beans going on there. I have lots of bush beans going on in here. We've harvested a ton from these. These are actually the only other thing that the Japanese beetles have been eating. You can see all the lacy looking leaves here. And this is there's only one of these plants that is climbing up the trellis. I don't know why. None of the others are climbing or putting out any little spindly things, but I have been getting a lot of beans from over here, so I'm pretty pleased about that. And if we go next to this, these were my little teeny tiny tomatillo plants that I expected absolutely nothing from. But I'm very, very surprised because they have put on a lot of flowers. This one has grown the most. And if I come around here, actually, you can see that they're actually putting on some little teeny tiny tomatillos. There's that little thin papery husk. This one has a couple. This is my biggest one. And if I feel inside of it really lightly, there's definitely like a little cherry tomato tomatillo happening there. So I'm honestly shocked. I had no faith that these plants were going to do anything because they were so small. But look, I've got so many happening and they have lots of flowers on them. So I'm quite surprised about that. I have one squash plant over here. I think it's squash. It honestly could be cucumbers, but I don't know. It's self-seeded over here. I don't know exactly what it is. So it's wrapping itself around this tomatillo though, so it might choke it out, but there's definitely flowers happening here and something happening here. Next to that, I have cilantro, which has finally grown in to be quite bushy. So I'm happy about that. I have these cupcake blush cosmos, which I've been really enjoying. They've gotten really bushy, which I'm happy about. This is my celery. I have no idea if anything's happening with this celery. There's a couple of larger ones over here. I expect they're supposed to be a lot bigger. I'm just gonna let this go until the end of the season and see if anything happens to it, but I have no idea. Next to that are my zinnias. I'm still waiting for most of them to come in. I've gotten a couple of those bright yellow and orange ones. Those are called the Old Mexico variety. But excitingly, in July is when snapdragons are finally coming in. So I have these white snapdragons, and then I have these pink ones. I have some in here that are called apricot that have been really pretty, and I've put a couple into bouquets so far. So I'm really happy about that. That took a while to come in. But the one thing that is not happening in this patch is onions. And I know I planted onions way too late. I was super hopeful about these red onions because they were the only ones that were growing, and now they're all completely dead except for this little thing. And then over here, this is all I have left of my onions. And I'm pretty confident that we're not getting any onions this year. But we'll start them at the right time next year and see what happens there. All right, now we're back in this far corner of the garden. And this last bed here is the pepper bed. Peppers I'm very happy with. We're having some large bell peppers going on. They're finally starting to turn colors a little bit. So I have yellow and red happening. And then if we move over here, we have serrano peppers happening right here. In the middle, we have poblanos. So we're starting to get some good poblanos. And then over here is the banana pepper patch, which I've harvested a bunch of banana peppers I showed in an earlier video. So we're starting to get now new growth on the banana peppers. And I'll be harvesting another bunch of those soon along with the poblanos. So I'm very happy with the peppers. They're not very bushy plants, but they are putting on a couple of peppers each, which is honestly just enough for our family because we are not heavy pepper people. But so far the banana peppers were really good. We had sweet banana peppers and they're just have no spice to them at all. They're super crunchy. But along here I've planted some sweet pea, and I planted it all along this bed, so I'm going to be excited when all of the sweet pea comes in around here, and it's going to smell so good. And then last here these are the contender beans. I've been getting a lot of beans off of here as well. They're looking good. They taste good. I've picked enough to freeze and put away a couple of gallon bags full, so I'm happy about that. Behind me is the gold tomato patch, and it is starting to look like the foliage is starting to die. So I think it's probably time soon to get some potatoes out of the ground. I've never dug up potatoes before, so I'm really excited to do that. I'll probably have the kids help me. But I'm pretty sure you're supposed to dig them up once all the foliage has died back, and it looks like we're about there. It's starting to turn pretty yellow and not so nice looking, getting picked off by bugs. So We will probably be digging up potatoes soon. And then if I turn around here, this is our corn and sunflower patch. So in June, we had about a week of time where we had a heavy rain for a week. It just was nonstop, and that is not normal for us at all. So when I got home from one of my trips, this corn was super dark brown. But I've gotten it back on a good watering schedule, and the weather has been a lot more normal, so it's finally growing. It was really stunted. I know it should be a lot taller than this by now, but now that all that rain has passed, it is looking a lot better and less brown. The sunflowers are looking good too. And that's our corn patch. Turning around behind me is the tomatoes. We have a couple of beans here, and then we've got our tomatoes going. This has definitely been the most exciting thing so far this month, is seeing how many tomatoes I'm getting. I'd say 80% of the plants have some green tomatoes growing on them right now. There's this plant at the end, and actually the other plant all the way at the end, I think are the only ones not producing tomatoes. But this is my biggest one so far, and I think it's going to start blushing first. We've got these, some here, we've got lots of flowers. This plant is definitely my tallest one, and I've just been tying them with some twine like this whenever I've needed to, and I've been very heavily pruning the bottoms, trying to get a lot of airflow, trying to make sure that nothing is touching the mulch because I don't want all that splashback from rain. So I've definitely been heavily pruning so that there can be a lot of airflow, and trying to put everything up to make sure that it has room and it's not getting super bushy. But I'm super excited about tomatoes. That's definitely something that I've seen people hauling in that I have not been able to do yet. But all of my tomatoes are pretty big. I actually didn't have any successful cherry tomatoes this year. So I assume if I had cherry tomatoes that I probably would have been able to harvest those by now. But they are looking really good. So far, no blight or anything at the bottom. These on the end here are getting crispy curled leaves and starting to look a little spotty. So I think this plant and this plant's having a rough time. I don't know if it's a nutrition thing or if it's a disease. So I'm probably gonna cut those up a little bit and probably add some fertilizer and see what that's going to do. There's a hummingbird. Wow, look at him. He's so cute. He's been liking these gladiolas. That's so cool. There he is, just sitting on the fence. Hey, little hummingbird. I don't think I've ever seen a hummingbird sit so still like that. He's probably waiting for me to leave. I'll hurry up. So next to the corn and sunflowers was the broccoli bed. This has all completely gone to seed. It's been picked over by the beetles and I need to clear it out. Like I said before, I have new broccoli seed started inside. So I'm gonna clear up this bed and I'm gonna put broccoli there again because it did grow really well. It obviously was just too hot. But over here is my gladiola bed and they are all starting to come up so pretty. This is called a smoky purple variety. And I cut some of that as well as this really bright, vibrant purple. And I made a arrangement with some of those white and blush cosmos over there. And it was so romantic and pretty. And then I also have these super tropical orange and yellow ones opening up right now. So it's like two very different color palettes, but one was super summery and then one was super romantic looking. So I've been enjoying that a lot and cutting those and putting those into vases. But I also have my squash. This is a spaghetti squash, and it's come all the way from over here, snaked around, and started attaching itself to the gladiolas. So I have squash growing inside all my gladiolas, but that's okay. Once I cut them, they're one and done anyway. But I have a lot of squash growing in this bed, and it's overflowing into the pathways, which are already overrun with weeds anyway. But at this point, I don't care. I've got the spaghetti squash growing in there, and just all around. Squash is starting to explode. I'm super happy about it. That's a butternut squash right there. And then as I walk this way, we have even more on the ground. There's a spaghetti squash and another one, and they're just all over the place. I'm loving it. These are carrots. They're still teeny tiny, but I'm just leaving them in the ground to see what they're gonna do. And then over here we have our sunflower patch. They're all starting to get a lot bigger. We have 3 different varieties of sunflowers in here. And then this is our pumpkin section. So we've got some little pumpkins starting to grow. We've got some here. We've got the little sugar pie pumpkins in here. We have a couple of Valenciano, and then we have some jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. It's definitely overrun with weeds, but I've done a little bit of weeding, but there's only so much I can do, I think, at this point. But lots of pumpkins, lots of squash starting to grow in here. I am happy, however, that, see this big patch here? I'm pretty sure this was acorn squash, and not a lot of it took. So I am super happy that I went ahead and I put a lot of squash in this bed too, because it's definitely something we loved using last year over the fall and winter, and I'm happy to have a lot of it. But we've got spaghetti squash growing. I'm pretty sure this is the acorn squash that didn't grow much at all, and the butternut squash for some reason didn't do well here, but it is doing well here, so that's okay. Along this fence line, I put in some wildflower seeds, and we're finally starting to get a little bit of them. There's definitely lots of bachelor buttons. These pink cosmos were a part of that pack, so I'm starting to get cosmos in. Not much of anything else, mainly just the bachelor buttons and a little bit of cosmos. I was hoping that was going to be a lot more colorful, so I might put a different seed in there next time. But we have a lot of squash spilling into this section, and have a big one growing over here. This is a spaghetti squash that looks very sizable. Now I'm just waiting for it to turn a lot yellower, and then it will be ready. But that's definitely my biggest one so far. But we've got them spilling into the aisles here, and that just makes me very, very happy. Now over here on this end was the melon patch, and none of the melons worked out. So there's no more watermelons in here, no more cantaloupe, and no more honeydew. I weeded this really well, and then I put in 2 more packages of corn, thinking that I might have enough time for corn. So that has come up pretty good, but still have the weeds again, so it needs to be re-weeded. But we're gonna see if I can get this corn growing a lot faster than that corn way over there. But I figured we should put something here to use the space since there's no more melons, and corn seemed like something I had time for. I am happy with these little California poppies. They really make a really cheerful bouquet when paired with like all the hot pinks and hot purples that we have going on. So I'm happy with the poppies. Then over here is the perennial flowers. So I finally have some of my larger dahlias opening up. I've already harvested one of these really beautiful dark reds, and I have 2 more coming in, although the beetles have really liked this section of flowers too, unfortunately. I have a sunflower here that seeded itself, and it looks like it's going to bloom soon, so I'm super happy about that. I have quite a few that still have buds and haven't done anything yet, and I have these lilies here that still haven't bloomed. But I did harvest one of these big dinner plate dahlias the other day. I'll pop in a picture, but I have another one coming here and a couple more blooms, so I've been super happy about that. These peonies I was so hopeful for because they popped up on their own when it was a lot cooler out, like in February and March. But I'm sad because these seem to die back. I'm not sure why. And then these just completely ceased growing at this height. So I don't know if third year is the charm and that's when we'll finally get peonies. Same here, I'm pretty sure this is a peony plant. So I don't know, I guess I'm gonna have to wait one more year to find out. But these couple of gladiolas I planted last year, and I think they just stayed dormant and didn't grow, but this year they're growing. So these red ones are what I planted last year. And finally, we have the green stalks that are looking really, really sad because they're just full of sad, wilted greens. I definitely didn't use the greens as much as I should, but I've been cutting them off and giving them to the chickens, so that's fine. But I have a new bunch of greens starting so that we can plant them in the cooler months. What has done pretty well, and I only have, I think, one left because the kids have been eating them, but I planted a couple of carrots to see how they would turn out, and I have one carrot left. And it seems to be growing to a good size. I can see it a little bit down there, but I only have one left because the kids have been snacking on them whenever we're in the garden. So I have one carrot doing an experiment, but I do like how they turned out a lot better than any carrots have turned out so far in the garden beds or in the ground. And I'm also doing an experiment with these cylindrical beets. So I have a couple of beets in each one. They look like they're finally bulbing up a bit. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. I thought they would be bigger. This one's pulled out a little bit, but let's see. So far they're only looking that big, which I'm pretty sure they should be bigger than this, but we should probably cut this one open and see what it tastes like. So we'll bring that inside, but yeah, I'm about ready to pull all of this out and feed it to the chickens. And then over here is our green stalk with herbs and strawberries. So I've not done as good with the herbs, of course. I always do herbs thinking, oh, I'm gonna cook with them every day, and then I just don't. But the beetles have really gotten to them too. You can see them on them right now. This was lemon basil, and they ate that first completely. My dill definitely shot up and flowered. I've cut a couple of those off to make some pretty arrangements with them. So they've been used for that, but yeah, everything's pretty much going to seed. My rosemary, my thymes and rosemary's looking pretty good. Parsley's hanging in there a little bit, and sage is getting pretty yellowed. But the most sad thing are these strawberries. They just got absolutely decimated by the beetles, but somehow some of them are still holding on, and they're trying to produce these really sad, pathetic looking strawberries. They've got flowers on them even though their leaves have been eaten, but this is all I'm getting right now. They've got little holes chewed in them. So really, really sad looking strawberries going on. And of course, everywhere I planted a bare root, nothing's happened. So I don't know if that's a second year thing too, or if I've done something wrong there. I am really happy with how these strawberry plants filled out, but then they just got totally decimated by the beetles before I knew to put the neem oil on them or do anything about it. So the green stalks I love. Very happy with the green stalks, but I'm definitely not doing a good job maintaining the things that I put in them. But I will definitely try again next time now that I know more and do some more experimenting. Probably not starting strawberries from seed next year. I'm probably just gonna buy starts because it's really sad to not get any strawberries when they're your favorite. All right, well, that is the July garden. There's definitely a lot more exciting things happening in July that were happening in June, and I'm super pleased about that. Definitely some things that we're going to be starting over on, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. I'm excited for the fall garden, and I'm mostly excited for all of the flowers that are coming in. Flowers have definitely made me happy. It's definitely been a joy to make some arrangements and put them in my kitchen, and I love how it's a perpetual. You just take out flowers that are spent, put new ones in pretty much every day, and that's been making me really happy. But I do wish, you know, I have all these dreams of having this abundance of harvest where I can a bunch of jars of tomato sauce or freeze a bunch of green beans, and so far in this little garden that I have, I'm, you know, just picking enough to make 1 or 2 meals out of and not really putting any away. So I know I'll have to build up to that, but it's definitely a dream of mine to be able to put away actual food that I grow instead of just making barely enough. But it is something, and I haven't been buying as much produce at the grocery store, so that's made me really happy. So that is the July garden, and I know we have a lot more fun stuff to come in August, and I'll keep you updated. So subscribe to see August's harvest and everything that brings. But for now, I'll see you next time. Bye.